There are many service entities in Alcoholics Anonymous. The focus of this video is the General Service Office in New York City, which serves AA groups and members in the U.S. and Canada.
In accordance with Traditions 11 and 12, the personal anonymity of all AA members is maintained in this video.
The video is narrated by Larry
and Lisa, both members of AA.
Good afternoon, AA General Service Office.
The General Service Office in New York City, the GSO. To many of us alcoholics, this is a special place.
A visitor came to the office, and we have the symbol, the circle and the triangle, and the visitor went and kissed it before he even acknowledged me. He was so happy to be here because Alcoholics Anonymous saved his life.
And whether you're a newcomer or a 20-year veteran, there's a tendency to view this office as AA headquarters.
I used to look at the General Service Office as that place in the sky.
In our community, usually they view New York as the big bosses of AA.
But in fact, this is not AA headquarters. The General Service Office belongs to all of us, and the people who work here are actually our servants.
We literally do work for the AA groups. They're the ones who set policy and make the recommendations through their elected representatives.
That's the purpose of this video, to explain just what the General Service Office does and how it serves members and groups throughout the U.S. and Canada.
I took inventory,
This is the AA most of us know, the meetings where we share and listen and give support.
I don't think that I'm afraid of dying. I think I'm afraid of drinking and still being alive.
My life got really, really chaotic. I used to wake up with scrambled eggs in my pocket, phone numbers.
This is the visible part of Alcoholics Anonymous, the meetings that end when the chairs are put away for the night. But there are other parts of AA, intergroups, central offices, and the General Service Office in New York.
The magic happens at the level where a newcomer enters a group and begins his process of recovery. And what the office is a visible part of an invisible program. It's the nervous system that guides and prospers AA.
I like to think of us as a place to gather, where we gather our collective experience in trying to carry the message. The 55,000 groups approximately in the United States and Canada can kind of meet here and share their experiences to what works and try to do collectively what groups can't do individually.
The General Service Office performs many functions that groups couldn't easily handle. More about that in a moment. But first, it's important to emphasize that we alcoholics are in charge. Groups throughout the U.S. and Canada, whether we speak English, French, or Spanish, set AA policy.
We run Alcoholics Anonymous. That's just that simple. The groups are the foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous work from the top down.
You'll see a picture of the triangle and the groups are right on top. And that's because the group makes the decision in Alcoholics Anonymous.
While most companies and organizations operate with a typical pyramid, AA turns things upside down. Our structure is an inverted triangle, with members and groups at the very top.
Our contributions pay for group expenses, district meetings, and area assemblies. We also pay for the annual General Service Conference where policies based on AA traditions are established. Policies that are then carried out by the GSO in New York.
Our service structure demands that the groups run it because all we have to do is cut off our 7th tradition monies, and there isn't a General Service Office. So we control the purse strings.
In fact, the GSO's main financial support comes from small contributions sent in by individuals and groups. Donations are accepted only from AA members.
I got a check from my non-member for $30,000 to take as a memoriam, and I had to send it back. That's a lot of money to have to send back and explain that we're sorry, we can't take your money because you're not a member.
And if you were a member, we can only take $3,000.
All this means the people at GSO work for us.
We say that we have 2 million bosses. We have about 2 million members, and that sounds pretty good to me. I have to be responsible to answer to them, you know.
I've talked to people down at GSO, and every time I've called, they've been like, what can I do for you? You know, they've made me feel so comfortable, you know, just like they're another member of AA.
Being a recovered alcoholic and being given the chance to someone would trust me to do something on their behalf is really extraordinary, you know.
Our voice begins in the group when we elect our General Service representative. He or she attends district meetings and the area assembly, meeting with many other GSRs. They discuss problems and possible solutions. The end goal is always the same: finding the best way to get the message to still suffering alcoholics.
If it's a person in the room that creating a problem in my meeting, then it's up to me or my group members to maybe catch this guy off to the side and calm him down and let him come back in if he can stay calm.
The area assembly is also where our GSRs and district committee members elect an area delegate to serve a single 2-year term.
The first candidate to receive 2/3 of the total vote is elected.
The process is truly spiritual because what happens is the people who are willing to serve stand.
I had the time and the willingness to serve, and I offer you my services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody's name will be up on the blackboard.
John.
Matt.
Gary.
Joyce. Joyce.
If the person doesn't get 2/3 of the vote, it goes to the hat. And that to me is like truly spiritual.
I'll do the best I can, and please, I know you'll let me know when I'm not. Thank you.
The delegate goes to New York in April for the annual General Service Conference, representing every group and member in the area.
All this goes back to the inverted triangle. Groups elect GSRs who, together with district committee members, elect delegates to the General Service Conference.
It was recommended that a draft 4th edition of the Big Book, Alcoholics Anonymous, be developed in a progress...
The General Service Conference is where area delegates meet for a full week each April. This is where our elected representatives set official AA policy. In this case, the debate is about a possible 4th edition of the Big Book.
My area discussed this topic at length in Assembly, and they are overwhelmingly in favor of a 4th edition.
Over to microphone 5.
We've had enough revisions of the Big Book now, according to our area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody that comes here has, I think, in his or her heart, the best interests of AA. The end goal is to reach substantial unanimity on what to do next on a particular subject.
All those in favor of the recommendation before this body at this time, please raise your hands. Thank you. And those opposed?
Any recommendation requires 2/3 approval to take effect.
Thank you.
Everybody in the room has a sense of doing very important work, very spiritual work. The passion comes from people honestly believing they're doing God's will in carrying out the wishes of their areas. They believe this whole thing is about saving lives, which it is, of course.
And after a policy is established at the General Service Conference, it's up to the General Service Office to carry it out. On the surface, the GSO looks like any other business office. But in many ways, it's unique.
About a dozen staff positions are held by alcoholics, who rotate job assignments every 2 years. They get together at a weekly staff meeting to discuss issues of importance to the fellowship.
The second thing is from an inmate, strong protest about our policy of putting men with men and women with women. He feels that simply because they are incarcerated, they ought not to be treated like children.
Can I make a point that that's not only when you're incarcerated, that's suggested in any AA meeting.
Right.
In general, the GSO performs functions that can't be handled by individual groups. There's public information, getting the correct message about AA to the media.
And of course, literature, beginning with the Big Book. It's the same literature many of us were handed at our first meeting and helped us stay sober.
The literature's been an extremely important part of my sobriety because it's kind of cleared up a lot of things I hear that may not necessarily be true in Alcoholics Anonymous. I find the literature really rewarding and terrific, and I'm grateful we have it.
Ideas for literature begin with individuals and groups, then work their way down through the district, area, and finally the General Service Conference, which approves any official AA literature.
We have to have the common message. We have to have the same literature. Otherwise, AA would be different in every group in North America. And if it did that, it would lose its meaning.
Actually, the literature has spread far beyond North America.
This office translates literature into other languages. Why? To carry the message. It's very, very heartwarming and very encouraging to be able to be just a little link in the chain that sends the AA message in many other languages now.
There's one staff member to work exclusively with the growing number of North Americans whose primary language is Spanish.
If I get up in the morning and I know that I'm a recovering alcoholic and I come to work at the General Service Office, I know that what I'm doing it for my brothers and sisters, whether it's in linguistics, whether it's through whatever other assignments, that is the idea.
Some other languages are less traditional. Just recently, the GSO translated another book into American Sign Language. A deaf or hard of hearing alcoholic can now watch a video translation of 12 steps and 12 traditions.
We get letters from deaf people who need AA, and we have something to send them. That's something that this office did that would have been virtually impossible for an AA group to have done, probably even very difficult for a local AA office to have done.
There's also our meeting in print, the Grapevine, which operates independently from the General Service Office. Articles come from individual AA members who write on a wide range of topics. The Grapevine is edited each month by a team of professional journalists.
After 35 years off and on in the Grapevine, Victor E. is finally leaving the tavern doors and going to a meeting. And it'll be interesting to see what people think about this.
The first issue was published way back in 1944. Today, the Grapevine shares experience, strength, and hope with AA members in more than 75 countries.
You allow someone sitting in their living room in the middle of the night to pick up a magazine and essentially have the basis of a meeting without the real live people, but all of the other components of an AA meeting right there when they need it.
Another publication, Box 459, is sent to all registered groups to keep them informed about what's happening at GSO, while LIM is designed for loners and internationalists. It's also a meeting in print for thousands of alcoholics who are totally isolated.
Whether they're one of our loners in Russia or New South Wales, to make sure that they get that message, that AA is here and that we can help each other, and we'll do whatever needs to be done to make sure that message is there.
As a loner, I wrote to New York and I said, I'm out here in France and there's no AA meetings, there's no groups around. What do I do? Immediately I was hooked up with all kinds of fellowship all over the world, and we wrote back and forth. It kept me sober.
There's also a great need to serve alcoholics in prison, a job that falls to another staff member at GSO. He receives 200 letters each week.
Letter after letter after letter. I started drinking at 9, I started drinking at 10, I started drinking at 11, and then just what's happened to their lives. One man wrote he's been in prison 20 times in the last 5 years. I read all of it, and I respond. We try to get somebody to meet them at the prison and take them to an AA meeting, because it's important that an inmate get to an AA meeting within the first 24 hours of release.
The GSO is also in touch with the professional community, doctors, psychiatrists, social workers.
We get phone calls every day from someone that doesn't know what to do with the alcoholic, and they want information.
Another way to share the pure joy of AA is through international conventions and World Service meetings. The GSO coordinates these meetings, as well as smaller events known as regional forums, which are held throughout the U.S. and Canada.
People can ask any questions they want of the board, of the staff, of each other. It's just kind of a sharing thing. So how does that directly relate to carrying the message? I think it just has made AA stronger.
When visiting alcoholics come to the GSO for a tour, there's one part of the office that's far and away the most popular: the archives.
The archives contain a first edition of the Big Book, signed by our co-founder himself, the famous Saturday Evening Post article that helped put AA on the map, and some other articles that weren't quite as positive.
The material helps us remember how we got started. Back when North America first heard about an organization called AA.
One of the most dramatic jobs in combating alcoholism is being done by the voluntary organization called Alcoholics Anonymous. AA offers help freely to any alcoholic anywhere who is willing to admit his own inability to help himself. And though not a religious organization, its 12-step program calls for belief in some power outside the individual.
We started off with just two guys talking to each other and keeping that magic alive, and the importance of that alive is what the archives are about. Usually it's the biggest feature of the office. You know, they want to stay here, they want to linger. I think they feel safety here. Kind of that spirit about it, that somehow with everything that's happened to us, we have survived.
The influence of Alcoholics Anonymous is spreading. Already it has rehabilitated over 24,000 men and women, of whom many have become volunteers working to save others.
In a sense, the General Service Office is similar to a local group. It's infused with the spirit of AA, with one message and one purpose.
The only reason for being here, for all of this structure, for the magazine, for the computers and all of the things that we do, is to reach out to the still suffering alcoholic.
That was the idea when the first General Service Office opened in Newark, New Jersey, with just 2 employees, Bill W. and his non-alcoholic secretary, Ruth. The workload has grown, and there are many new ways to pass on the message, but the spirit is unchanged.
We look at what we're doing, and it's really essentially what was done by Bill and Ruth. A lot of more business functions today, but all those business functions are designed to facilitate the mission, which is completely spiritual.
The key word in General Service Office is service. But just what does service mean? According to Bill W., service is anything that helps us to reach a fellow sufferer. At the group level, that can mean setting up chairs, or perhaps making coffee.
Well, that's the whole key to staying sober. You know, it's giving back. When I'm doing this, I'm basically not only being useful, but it keeps me out of my own thoughts. I was told by my old sponsor, move a muscle and change a thought.
Everyone is encouraged to serve in some way. Many members say service helped them stay sober.
I was given back my life, and really the true essence of it is to pass it on. We can't keep it unless we give it away. And I just believe that with all my heart.
I have to give what I've gotten back to another alcoholic. And for me to help another alcoholic is like saying, I won't go back there.
Carrying the message to other alcoholics is part of our 12th step. And our very first tradition talks about togetherness. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity.
And without the unity, you know, we've got nothing really. And that's whether it be here or GSO in New York. It's all part of that unity that keeps us together.
The alcoholics at GSO are in a rare position. Their employer actually saved their lives.
Yeah, I don't know if it can work for everybody, but it worked for me. And with that knowledge, I can come here every day knowing that what I'm doing is worthwhile and a sense of purpose.
We have one message to deliver, and I believe that General Service Office and everything it stands for has been the thing that has allowed us to maintain that single focus, so that we focus on carrying the message to the alcoholic who still suffers.
Again, that's where the miracle comes in. The miracle that occurs when a drunk comes to a meeting searching for a glimmer of hope, then stays when he finds a home.
I'm supposed to be in jail for the rest of my life, and God saw it otherwise.
I feel happy, joyous, and free. I really, not every single second, but boy, an awful lot of the time.
I could never have designed a life as good as my life is today. And I still have bad days, but that's okay. I used to have bad years, you know?
It's a miracle that occurs every day and every night in cities and towns throughout the world. A miracle that's lasted for more than a half-century. A miracle for which we all give our thanks.
And in the 3 languages represented at this conference, why the Serenity Prayer will be delivered.
Dios, concédeme la serenidad para aceptar las cosas que no puedo cambiar, valor para cambiar las que puedo y sabiduría para reconocer la diferencia. Hágase su voluntad y no la mía.
Mon Dieu, donnez-moi la sérénité d'accepter les choses que je ne puis changer, le courage de changer les choses que je peux et la sagesse d'en connaître la différence.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.